Welcome, I'm Cece Smith, joined here today by Miles Kelly, an investigator with the Rockbridge County Sheriff's Office. Thanks for being here today, Miles.
Sure, happy to do it.
Why don't you start with telling us a little bit about the position of an investigator?
Well, my position is an investigator with the Sheriff's Office. I've been there 17 years, starting 17 years, been an investigator for 15. We're a small department, and the investigators are expected to be able to investigate any case that comes along, as well as process crime scenes, collect evidence, and so forth.
And why does Rockbridge County need someone in this position?
Well, you know, we're the same as any other city. We may not have the numbers of population, but we certainly have the same crimes as any metropolitan area or any other area in the United States.
And when you say investigate, what exactly does that entail?
Well, usually we'll get a report of a larceny or sexual assault or a drug tip or something like that. And of course our job is to investigate and then make arrests and prepare cases for court, and that's what investigators do.
And why do you do this job?
Something I always wanted to do. I got into it late in life, but I always wanted to do police work. And I started out in patrol, and it was a fun job, and ended up moving into investigations, and it's hard work sometimes, but the guys I work with are really good guys, and we all get along well to do the job.
And what have been some of the most notable cases you've covered?
In my job, I'm responsible for a grant that covers domestic assault between intimate partners, women and men, also sexual assault of women, and then I do child sexual assault cases. And those are the cases that I specialize in, but I'm able to work almost any case that comes along.
Those are some pretty tough issues. Does it ever take a toll on you?
Well, they are. We have about 20 to 30 child sexual assault cases in any year that we investigate. Probably 10% of them come to court, and those are the tough cases. And
speaking of going to court, you were the investigator for the Larry Clark case, who was the Buena Vista pastor who was arrested and charged on sex crimes.
I was.
And can you speak a little bit about your experience with that? Was it difficult?
Yeah, it was a hard case. It was first trial. We had a male victim, young man, and very hard for a male victim to come forward and say that they were molested by somebody out of embarrassment and out of fear.
And as an investigator, what kind of things did you do to help get that to court? Was it working with other people?
For that case, well, I did search warrants for computers, phone, Facebook records, text messages. I had his phone forensically evaluated, gathered evidence, any evidence that we could that would corroborate the victim's story. And I guess we did okay because Larry Clark went to jail.
And he's awaiting his second trial.
He's awaiting the second trial, which will be July 7th. It'll be a jury trial, would be a one-day trial.
Great. And moving into a more broad issue, what do you think are some of the issues Rockbridge County is facing right now?
Well, you look at our county, and it's a rural county in many regards, but we also have two interstates that come through, Interstate 64 and Interstate 81, which brings a lot of traffic from out of the area, people that we don't know, people that are just passing through. 81 is certainly a drug corridor, so a lot of drug seizures are made on Interstate 81. And then just the people who are wanted that go up and down the road that you wouldn't know or understand unless you had contact with them. So drugs is an issue. Of course, Larcenies from homes is an issue. Sometimes that's drug related and sometimes it's not, but we don't like people's homes to be broken into, and we work very, very hard to try to solve these crimes. Rural area, we have a lot of domestic violence. We probably answer about 180 domestic violence calls in a year, sometimes 200. So we stay busy with that too. Just again, everything that can come along.
And again, those are some really tough issues. Is there anything that the Rockbridge County Sheriff's Office is doing to sort of solve those issues and bridge this gap we have?
Well, we try to be proactive. We try to have community outreach, talk to groups about domestic violence, sexual assault, encourage people to come to the police to make reports. Just because you make a report, it doesn't necessarily mean that we're going to go arrest somebody and throw them in jail, because maybe the victim doesn't want that. But we do try to have public outreach. We try to put publicity out on the crimes that we're investigating to try to get tips, because in many, many cases, that's how we solve crimes, is with a tip. It could be an angry girlfriend or somebody like that. Somebody knows that a crime occurred and they give us a call. And then that's what an investigator does, is we take that and try to develop it.
And you mentioned sexual assault cases earlier, and that is specifically one of the cases you handle. And you also mentioned wanting more people to come forward. How do you think you can make sexual assault victims come forward more? Because that's a very tough issue.
Yeah, it is. And those are personal decisions, especially when one is an adult. You know, when one's a child and you have people that are mandated reporters, and we have to act on these. You know, again, anybody that's been sexually assaulted, whether it was last week, yesterday, or 20 or 30 years ago, if they want to talk about it, that's what we're there to do. We've arrested and convicted people of sexual assault and sent them to prison even after 30 years after the assault, okay? So there's no statute of limitations on that type of crime. And certainly it takes some work, but we're willing to do that work to try to bring closure to the victim and bring some justice to the system.
Great. And one campaign the Sheriff's Office recently started was No Texting and Driving campaign. Okay. Could you speak a little bit about the importance of that?
Well, it's against the law. And also, if you've texted and driven, you know it's very, very dangerous. And it's akin to driving while you're intoxicated. And I'll say that I have done it before the law took effect and ran off the road. And so I know, what if you hit somebody that was walking, or a bicyclist or something like that? I mean, you just don't want to have that. So it's just best to wait and answer that text or respond to the text at a later time.
And it is against the law, so I'm wondering, how does an officer figure out that you're texting and driving? Is it something they see and then they'll pull you over? Or is it something that can be determined after?
Well, you could pull somebody over if their car is being driven erratically, and you can establish a pattern. That's what would be probable cause for somebody that would be drinking. But I drive an unmarked vehicle, and there are many, many times that I see people holding a cell phone in their hand, and I know they're getting ready to text, and they may look over and see me, and they put the phone down. So I know it's going on. You just have to catch them in the act. It's like speeding or driving while intoxicated, or having drugs in your possession. You know, we've got to catch the people in the act.
Right. Well, thank you for being here today,
Sure.
Miles.
Okay, enjoyed it.
Thank you. I'm Cece Smith.